12 News, your election headquarters, sponsored by Nature's Federal Credit Union.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jordan Williams, the evening anchor here at 12 News. I'm joined by Mayor Robin Mouton. She is ready for a repeat with a challenge, a runoff right now with the current mayor, Roy West. You defeated him in 2021. He defeated you in 2023, and we are waiting to see what's going to happen here in 2025. So thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your thoughts on some of the big issues that continue to dominate this race. I've got a couple of questions, and we'll visit here over the course of the next 15 minutes or so. The first, Mayor, is why should voters choose to elect you over Mayor West, and what do you believe distinguishes your leadership and your accomplishments from his?
Well, I am a proven leader. I have proven leadership, and I've served. I've served 6 years on council. 2 of those years I was Mayor Pro Tem. I served 2 years as the mayor, and so I have 8 years of municipal government leadership. And the difference that distinguished me from the current mayor is that I have proven that I could do this job. I've brought in over $60 million to this city in revenue to use towards moving the city forward.
To follow up to that, what do you believe he has not done to not prove himself, so to speak?
Well, one of the things that he's running on is crime. And as we all know, our crime has been the worst crime in the history of the city in the past 2 years. Do I believe Mayor West is responsible for the actual act of the crime? Absolutely not. But as mayor and the leader of a city, you're responsible for the statistics and for the activity that is represented by your city.
We'll talk more about crime in a second, but I want you to reflect back, whether you talk about your 6 years on the council or your 2 as mayor, but what do you consider to be your biggest achievement in your service, and what unfinished business is on your agenda?
Well, one of my largest achievements that I'm most proud of is the port expansion, the grant.
The TxDOT money?
The grant that was given to our port, the Port of Beaumont, $26.4 million. And that was to enlarge and make the necessary expansions to allow larger barges and larger docks to be expanded to get other ships to come in to our port. So, which also means more revenue for our city and more employment. And so those things, I'm proud of that. There are a lot of things. The $34 million where I went to Austin and testified with State Rep Christian Manuel to bring in $34 million for tourism and for to build a downtown hotel and conference center. And one of the main things
is that, would you count the plans for the downtown hotel and conference center among your unfinished business that you're ready?
Absolutely.
You support it? You support it?
I do support it. I was there for the purchase of the AT&T building. I was there for the tear down and the clearing of the riverfront. I mean, we have a beautiful riverfront that's not being utilized. And if you go right down the road to Port Neches and Nederland, we know what that looks like because we all have gone to the Wheelhouse. And it's a beautiful restaurant right down the street from us, and we have more riverfront than Port Neches has. So with the tear down of the AT&T building and the clearing of it, I could just imagine what we could do with that riverfront.
I want to jump back to public safety. As you mentioned, top of concern for this campaign. It's been something the mayor's running on, and it's front and center. What specific steps would you take in your next term to reduce violent crime and also to improve the community's trust in the police department and law enforcement?
Well, first of all, I do not think that our citizens do not have a trust for the police.
Okay, so we'll take that off the table.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
take that off the table.
All right.
I believe our police department is doing a good job. What I believe needs to happen, I believe that the police is saying that there's enough police officers on the ground. So if there's enough police officers on the ground, maybe we need to look at reallocating where they are. Because if there's crime in the south end of Beaumont and we are not having enough patrol cars in that area, I just think it's a matter of distribution and reallocating where the police are.
Yeah, and I think I've seen some campaign literature from you on
Absolutely.
Facebook, specifically addressing this idea of where the officers are.
That's right.
And where they're stationed, and sort of what. And do you want to elaborate on that at all, based on what you would change or what you've observed perhaps should change?
Well, number one, I cannot make the change, but
Absolutely.
along with the city manager, the other council members, council at large, I believe if we all come together and each council member, at large member, city manager, Chief Oknichek, along with city leaders, civic and social groups, that if we all come together, I believe we can come up with a plan that will work for Beaumont.
This idea about where officers are,
Right.
where their patrols are, whether they're in the problem, the
Areas.
you
Exactly.
hate to say that, but the areas where crime is happening more frequently.
It's more prevalent.
Is that something that you've heard from officers? Is that something you I'm assuming
No, I
didn't
haven't.
come up with this?
No, I
You
did.
did? This is your idea?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Okay.
No, I have not talked to the officers. I have not talked to the chief. But to me, it's just common sense. Why are we having officers in areas where there is no crime versus where the crime is, and we're lacking in police force?
Fair enough. You also, I feel like I'd be remiss not to mention, you mentioned Chief Oknichek. He was not the chief when you were in office a few years ago. Any thoughts on working with him and the department under his leadership?
I've worked with Chief Oknichek in the past with the emergency management. He was director of emergency management while I was the mayor. We have a great working relationship, and I don't see a problem in us working together ever.
Perfect. Let's roll on to the city budget. Workshops, as I understand it, happen this time of year. That's kind of a late spring and summer thing. And the budget's presented to council in August, correct?
Correct.
All right. So what specific goals and priorities would you advocate for if you were in the mayor's seat as we go through the budget process?
Well, number one, you can't spend any more money than you have coming in. So we have to take a look at the budget. It's been a lot of talk of making sure that the budget is balanced. You cannot run any business, you cannot run your household on more money than you have coming in. So we have to take a look, making sure that we have a balanced budget.
Are there any priorities that stand out in your mind, assuming that you can fund them?
No, not off the top of my head.
How critical is the success of the upcoming bond election and the property tax increase to your broader vision for Beaumont's future?
I don't think that's going to be a problem. You don't ever want to go up on taxes. You don't ever want to increase taxes. My understanding is that that bond issue will bring approximately $10 per household, not per individual, but $10 more per household.
Per month, is it?
Per month.
I feel like I've seen that.
Right,
So,
per
so,
month.
so the $120 a year if you've got an average valued property.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so, but
You think that's manageable?
I think
The ask is manageable.
I think the ask is manageable, but the citizens will get to choose, and they will have the say-so.
What projects or initiatives would you put under that bond? Is this where the downtown hotel comes in?
Downtown Conference Hotel. You can't bring a conference to your city without a facility. And Beaumont has been lacking a conference hotel facility for a long time.
How does it happen in your mind? Is it public-private dollars working together? When people ask you, okay, so you support this, I'm not trying to be coy, but I'm curious how Robin Mouton would
Well,
fund it.
It could be, it can work both ways. It could be public-private. It could be just bond funded. It depends on.
Where the city would actually own the hotel and somebody would lease it and operate it, or what?
Well,
I genuinely don't understand, so I'm
no,
curious.
and really the city would not own it because you're gonna work with a chain.
The
You're
developer.
You're gonna work with a Marriott, a Hyatt, a Holiday Inn,
You want the flagship.
and you want a flagship hotel, and you do.
So the city would own the property, which we currently do,
We
but
own the
someone else
property.
would develop it and run the
Absolutely.
hotel. Okay. How critical do you believe the success of the upcoming bond election and the property tax increase is to your broader vision for the city's future and success? And I'll go ahead and ask the follow-up, and that is, what projects or initiatives will be supporting a bond election?
Well, there's a long list. It's a long laundry list. So there are people that have been chosen by the current sitting council members that's on that bond committee.
Yep.
But once that bond committee meets and go through the list, the citizens have the final say so. So the citizens get to vote on that.
You think when the proposal comes out, people will know what it would be used for?
They will know.
Yeah. Is there a chance that some of the infrastructure needs that we continue to hear about, whether it's streets or water and sewer and drainage, could some of that be part of it as well, as you understand it?
I believe it will be.
Yeah.
Because that's important to the citizens of Beaumont.
I have a couple more questions about downtown,
Yes.
which is no surprise here. Revitalization for downtown accounts for more than $88 million in some of the proposed CIP projects, those community projects. What is your specific vision for downtown Beaumont, and how would these investments create long-term value for the city?
Well, the vision for downtown, we have a beautiful downtown. Different mayors and different council members have come to the city. I have one friend in particular. She said, I would die for a downtown like this in my city. So we have something that I don't believe we fully understand what we have. And to have a downtown that sit on the Nature's River, a riverfront view, you can't create a riverfront view. You either have it or you don't. And we happen to have it, and we've allowed it to sit there and not capitalize off of the beauty of our river. And the long-term goal, if we put a conference center and a conference hotel on the river, it's going to be long-term employment. You're going to gain money that's going to come into your city, because you will be able to have different conferences to come to your city, which means dollars being spent in your city.
I hear you. What is your strategy to bring new business and economic opportunities, not just to downtown, but to the city as a whole? And that I would include neighborhoods that have been historically seeing less and less investment. So just to recap, what's your strategy to bring new businesses and economic opportunities, not just downtown, but citywide?
Well, one thing I will tell you is that our Conventions Visitors Bureau, they do a great job in going out, promoting our city, and making sure that they are capitalizing off of every opportunity to bring conventions, new businesses here to the city. Mm-hmm. We now have a new department that will also be going out to promote Beaumont, to bring in new businesses. I have traveled in the past to promote Beaumont, trying to get new businesses to come to our city, because there's conventions twice a year that you can go out to promote your city, to bring new businesses here. I believe that we've missed some opportunities in promoting our city, because if you look right down the street, we have Mount Bellevue that has so many new businesses right off of I-10 that we probably could have promoted our city to gain those businesses to come. So I believe working together with the new council and the city manager collectively being in one accord, being unified, which I'm proud that I did that while I was mayor, so that we can move the city forward.
Let's go to infrastructure. We have a couple of minutes left here. Aging infrastructure, especially in terms of wastewater and drainage, remains a concern, particularly during heavy rains, not just during tropical storms. What specific steps would you push the city to do to improve that infrastructure and long-term resilience?
Well, I believe it's a priority, especially for the citizens of Beaumont, because number one, they've said, I can't flush my toilet.
We've heard it.
We've heard it over and over and over, and it's too many citizens that are saying, I can't flush my toilet. And it should not be because of rain. But we have old infrastructure that we have worked on. As a matter of fact, the CARES Act money, we had 32 million. We took 29 million of that 32 million and we put it into infrastructure. But when you have old infrastructure that's been neglected for so many years, it's just going to take more money to get it up to par. But it will be a priority for me and while I'm sitting mayor, so that no one should have to go through that.
Residents have expressed frustration with city services through the years. How would you improve responsiveness, whether it's through 311, the city website, or more department accountability at, say, the water or streets and drainage or whatever?
Absolutely.
You buy that?
I do buy that, and I've spoken on it. However, mayor and council set policy. So our job is to bring it to the city manager and to the directors and department heads. And when, it's funny you would say that because I got a call on Monday that a customer told me, and I call citizens customers.
Yeah.
Because they are customers to city employees. That is your customer. And so she just felt like the treatment that she received was unfair from one of those departments that you've just said.
Yeah.
And I won't be specific about it, but when someone goes to get a permit or to pay a water bill or any department, that is the responsibility of each and every employee to make sure that you're treating them with dignity and you have a job because of the citizens of Beaumont.
And I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't say this, but I think you'd agree with me with this assessment. As residents, we shouldn't have to call or text you or
Absolutely.
another council member or anyone else to feel like they're getting that level of respect, courtesy, and at least that their concern matters.
Absolutely. And
we've all had to do that at
That's
different
right.
times through the years.
That's right. And I feel like
Many of us.
right. Every department needs to be accountable. Department heads need to be accountable. And I believe we need customer service training because citizens are your customers.
We're almost out of time, but I want to give you a second to make a closing statement of sorts. And I would ask that if you would tell us what would be different from you from 2021 if you returned to office as mayor. That was in the middle of COVID. Things were not normal. So what would be different if you go back into the mayor's seat soon?
Well, absolutely. Things were not normal.
Right.
Everything we did was via Zoom, and we were not going into the office. We had to wear a mask everywhere we went. A lot of departments were working from home. And so it's a very, very different climate this time around. I would be more hands-on, and a lot of people have said, well, I have not seen the mayor, but you've just hit the nail on the head. COVID was a major part while I was the mayor. And so I plan to be out more. I plan to be even more visible. than I am currently, because people want to know that you're there. People want to know that you care and you care about what matters to them. And so I look forward to serving again as mayor and being out in front and center.
Well, we thank you for making time to visit with us. Good luck.
Thank you.
Mayor Robin Mouton back on the ballot again in this runoff election. Stay with 12 News, 12 News Plus, and 12newsnow.com for continuing coverage.
12 News, your election headquarters, sponsored by Nature's Federal Credit Union.
Well, thank you for tuning in to 12 News as we do an interview now with Mayor Roy West, who is running for his re-election bid for a second term to become the mayor of City of Beaumont for one more term. Welcome to you, Mayor West.
Well, thank you, Mark.
So let's go ahead and get right on into it if we could. Why should voters choose to re-elect you against your opponent, Robin Mouton? You've now faced her off in this is the third election now, so why should the voters go with you?
Well, it's been a privilege being mayor the last 2 years, and I think I'm hoping my record speaks for itself, but I certainly want to remind people of all that we've accomplished. I mean, I was born and raised here, so this is my home, and now my wife and I, we have 5 adult children. All of them are married, 3 of them live in Beaumont, and 7 of our grandchildren live in Beaumont. So, you know, Beaumont's been good to me, but I'm also really invested here in Beaumont with a business and real estate. And I want Beaumont to thrive and be better. So that was my attraction to getting into city government and seeing how I could do to help. Well, I found like we've made great progress in the last 2 years. You know, because there's so many components from, you know, wanting to bring a more vital city, more attractive city. You know, we're working on economic development. We're going to be getting a downtown proposal for a hotel in June. We also have a bond advisory committee that is meeting, and in August are going to make suggestions to council for what would be on a bond issue vote in November. So, which people can follow online. There's also a website. But, you know, we did a vacant building ordinance to improve downtown, enhance code enforcement. We've done a no camping ordinance. We have our real-time crime center. We've put more ambulances on the street. You know, we've accomplished so much as a city, and there is still lots of work to do, but I'm very excited with what's been done.
Talk about priorities going up in the next term. You've touched on this quite a bit. You've also touched on several things that you're proud of from your current term. What's going to be the big priorities, do you think? Anything very specific you want to talk about?
Well, clearly public safety and infrastructure stays a priority, and but that's always a priority. But we've made such progress on our sewer and water and roads, drainage, because we have master plans for all of those. And I know just in my 2 years as mayor, the number of sewer calls, the number of brown water calls has greatly reduced. Now, I'm not taking credit for that personally, because we have departments that take care of it. However, I can see the improvement because people aren't calling in as much, also in terms of 311, the number of reports that are happening. But we still have work to do on those. So those are extremely important. Public safety is always important. You know, you've got to fully train, fully fund your police, your fire. You want the best staffs you can get with the best equipment. But also from you know, we spent time. We just received a Parks Master Plan. The one thing we can see, if we're going to thrive in the future, quality of life has to matter too in our city. So what is it that attracts people there? And you know, we've been going through that process right now, actually this week. And I'm excited at the various opportunities and the fact that we're looking forward to that, because I think people will see significant changes, positive changes in the city of Beaumont in the next 2 years. And in these past 2 years, we made progress, but a lot of them were foundational. So now we're ready to go next step.
Let's drill down into public safety just a little bit. We've
Yes.
had some high-profile incidents lately. I don't know if you saw a report that we just did on group violence. You're well aware of
Yes.
this string of shootings we had
Sure.
in early May here. Of course, there's those unfortunate domestic shootings that seem to happen off and on when they do occur, and other such incidents. What's the plan for public safety?
Well, you know, our police department is increasing patrol, increasing visibility, but we do an incredible job of clearing cases. I mean, I think the shootings that you were probably talking about in beginning of May, there's been 10 arrests, and I think, and not all of the people were involved in the shooting, is my understanding, but some of them hindered the investigation or obstructed the investigation. So people aren't getting away with it, whether it was the homicide that occurred in the middle of the night between two guys playing dominoes. But what it points to culturally within our society is we have to do something to engage younger people, to give them alternatives and show them other ways to behave, and provide those tools. Harris County, through their juvenile justice system, we've gone over there with the county and the school district, our commissioners, county judge. That would be a county project, but how to engage our youth in terms of just punitive, getting into some rehabilitative work so that when kids get in trouble, they're taught skills to avoid that type of trouble. And give them alternatives on when they get out of that and go back to their lives. Hey, what else can I do besides run with the people that I've been running with? So we've got to provide additional tools. And where they're doing that, they're seeing success. It's taken us a long time to get in this situation because this is about a breakdown of families. This is about a breakdown in community. Neighbors aren't as connected as they once were, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Technology, the busyness of life, both parents working, and all those things. But we hadn't filled the void. There's too many unsupervised young people growing up that don't feel connections to people, and sometimes their behavior reflects they don't have much hope, and also young adults, because that seems to be the focus of who's involved in these violent crimes.
So if I could sum it up, you're basically wanting to get ahead of this violence if possible by addressing some root causes here, and also pointing out that when violence does occur, BPD's been pretty quick to make arrests and hold those folks accountable.
That's exactly right. Thank you.
Let's move along here. Let's talk a little bit about infrastructure investments. I believe it was, and forgive me, I'm still new here, but there was a big announcement about sewer and water investments maybe a couple of years ago. I think that price tag was around $155 million.
Right, that's correct.
What's going on with that? That's specifically the water delivery system, but maybe also the sanitary sewer as well?
Yes, and I have learned so much in the last 2 years, still have much to learn. And Johns Hopkins University, through the Bloomberg Philanthropies that paid for the grant, just worked with our water and sewer department to look at the efficiencies of it, which has been really helpful too, because we have really great departments. And with new technology, you're also able to pinpoint the challenges. And what we're doing, for instance, sewer, water intrusion, water getting into our sewer system, it creates a problem for people to be able to flush. We can replace a sewer line behind homes that were built in the 50s, and it was maybe a concrete line, and the concrete line's collapsed on top. So there's a lot of water intrusion. Put in a whole new sewer line, and you tie in the sewer lines from those homes, but many times those homes have those old sewer lines too. And the city can't replace lines on private property. So, you know, informing the public as well and helping on that, but the city doing all they can in terms of replacing sewer lines, to also anywhere where there can be incursion into our sewer infiltration, as it's referred to. But then our sewer pumps, you know, we've, a lot of our infrastructure is a lot older than me, and I'm in my mid-60s, so some of it just needs to be replaced, and it is getting replaced, and so very aggressively, as you pointed out. And I think one way we've been able to get more aggressive is our Public Works Department is very intentional, because it takes a lot of work to be able to plan that much work and have that work executed in a year through these subcontractors. But they've gotten really good at it, and so we're really knocking out a lot of projects. You know, people in the West End, Gladys they put in a new water line down there, and that was huge because it went all the way down Gladys, but it was inconvenient for a period of time, as we experienced around town with the traffic problems, but significant infrastructure improvement.
Yeah, as you were just talking about there, the infiltration into the sewer system, when we get these heavy rains and then people can't flush their toilets, or
Right.
even might back up even, it's interesting, we just did a story on this on a couple of other projects you'll have coming up next year. One, the replacement of the trunk line down 23rd.
Right.
In that report, we found that 40% of the infiltration of the rainwater that gets into the system, according to the EPA, actually comes from the private side on those private lines. So it's a problem that's hard to stay on top of.
You're
now,
right.
of course, you can point out all the good work that your departments do every single day, and we know that they're out there every single day, but for the average citizen, whether it be sewer issues, whether it be roadwork issues, whether it be drainage issues, they might not quite know that or see that.
Understood.
They're waiting for 311 to get back to them,
Right.
even though 311's there to receive your complaints and move them on to the proper department. Talk about transparency and what we can do and what you hope to do if reelected for a second term, so that the citizens feel and know that they are being heard when they put these complaints in.
Well, what I've learned, particularly in the last 2 years, is the city does an incredible job providing information to the residents. But what I'll admit is, in today's world, people are used to getting on social media and having it pop up in front of them. Well, if you go to the city's website, whether it's about our ditching program, whether it's about our road repairs, potholes, whether it's about sewer lines and replacement, information is there, but you have to go to the departments, and then you can bring up maps, and they're interactive, and they'll even tell you when your street was last repaired, when it's anticipated to be repaired, if it's on there, or if there is no plan at this point. So there's a lot of information there, but we're used to one touch, and it goes beyond one touch. It's not that we try to make it difficult, it's just that there is so much information that how you break it down to get to people. And I know our IT, as well as the individual departments and communication, we do our best to continue to push that information out and educate people, because sometimes, and transparency is used a lot in government, and I have found that people that work in public service, that is their career. They take it very seriously in our departments, and I'm very proud of them, of the work that they do. But we have policies and procedures for everything, and they're very good about following them. And we need to help continue to find better ways to educate people, because certainly through advertising and social media, they know how to catch your attention easy. And so I think with our city, we continue to learn. We learn from other cities on how to push this information out, how to make it available to people. But that is why people elect council people and a mayor too. I mean, we are available. We're available through the city website. I know on my own website, I have my cell phone as well as email there. And people reach out to me on various issues every day. And I welcome that. And I think our council people welcome that as well, because you're getting involved because you want to know what is happening in your city, and you want to be as responsive as you can be.
And certainly stay in touch with your council members. That's a great asset right there, as well as calling the city, but also, staying involved with your neighborhood association, or maybe taking it a step further and organizing maybe an inactive neighborhood association. That goes such a long way when it comes to moving your priorities in your neighborhood forward.
Yes, sir.
Let's switch gears here and talk about the bond issue that we could have coming up here. The voters, maybe as soon as November, could be voting on a bond issue here in the city of Beaumont. That could mean a property tax increase. Got a lot of priorities out there. You only need to take a look at the capital improvement plan, which has been a document that
Right.
I don't know if many people have read, but it's full of all sorts of priorities, and they're probably much more than will even be tackled in this bond issue. But what are your priorities that you'll be pushing for in a bond priority or in a bond issue that you could be sending to the voters here this November?
I will say there are many priorities, and they're all being discussed in the capital improvement plan and also through our bond advisory committee. And one of the great privileges of being mayor is I serve this city. It isn't about serving me. So I like to hear the needs of the people, and I want us to respond to their needs and meet those needs. And that's one reason we put together committees in this bond advisory committee. They're meeting. They've had 2 meetings this far. They're going to have another meeting next week. I was able to be at the second one. The first one I had a meeting. Council isn't required to go to those meetings because the bond advisory committee gets this information. We've got a consultant that's helped presenting it to them and helping them understand all the different projects that have been identified through council, but also through the residents saying this is something we're interested in, putting a price tag to it, and then putting a cost to it in terms of property tax increase. And we do have BeaumontBonds.com up, and it has a good bit of information. You know, people have asked me what's going to be on the bond initiative, you know, that will be voted on in November. What's happening right now is the bond advisory committee is meeting. They're reviewing everything. They're going to present what they believe ought to be on the November ballot to council in August. And at that point, council will accept it or amend it. I myself tend to follow what commissions recommend because we've appointed them on there. But so we don't know that exactly, but we know of the kind of menu that they're looking at to decide. But a quick example, you know, people say, well, I can't believe you're going to raise taxes. Well, the great thing about a bond issue, we hadn't had one in 42 years in Beaumont. But it's the taxpayers decide what they may want. And there's going to be several things on there. And again, all of it's not decided, but they gave some examples of terms of cost, like a $10 increase in your property tax a month, which some would say is the cost of 1 Starbucks, translates to an additional $157 million for projects. And so on a bond issue, if you vote for a bond issue, it shows you the cost, it shows you what the increase would be, and there will be a menu. I think there's going to be, my understanding is there'll probably be 4 different options. And you can decide, you can vote for all of them, you can vote for none of them. And but again, it is the residents' choices. Many cities, and what I refer to more healthy cities that have some growth and they have bond issues every 5 to 7 years. Usually they have a rotation. Doesn't mean they pass bonds every 5 to 7 years, but they give voters choices. So I think the mere fact that we're having this is a step forward.
I remember when this was first presented at council a couple of months ago, you know, they stated, the contractors that you'll have working on this issue stated that should the voters decide not to go in favor of this, at least you have some more information on what their priorities are. And as you just stated, of course, the citizens can participate and stay informed through these appointed members who are a part of this bond committee right now as it works to put together a proposal, and then they can participate at the council meetings, and ultimately they get a choice whether or not to approve it at the ballot box in November.
Absolutely, and there is going to be a public meeting with the bond, and all of them are public. But you know, that's it. And sometimes people say, well, I don't even know why y'all are thinking about that. And I understand how some people may be against one thing, but you got to realize we got to consider a whole city. So everything that is before the bond committee is something that people have expressed an interest for. And sometimes people think I have that individual interest. Well, again, it's not about us as individual council people. It's about our city and the quality of life that they want. And then I'll have some people say, man, I'd be happy to vote for that. And then I have others tell me, no, I wouldn't. I mean, that's okay. That's how the process works. But what I like about it is you're getting a choice. You know, if people don't like it, it wouldn't pass. If people do, it will.
And I would say to any citizen who is interested in what these priorities could be, probably one of the best places to start is to go to y'all's website and check out that capital improvement plan. It is a wealth of information and certainly worth looking at so you can see what the priorities of the city are. Mayor, let's wrap up this interview going into the re-election and the runoff on June 7th against former Mayor Robin Mouton. Give us a closing word on why folks should vote for you. Share any endorsements that you might have, and just what do you want citizens to know?
Well, thank you. I have been endorsed by the Beaumont Police Officers Association and TREPAC, which is the real estate PAC for the state of Texas. But, you know, again, I just want to remind people that this is a real privilege for me to be a part of. And, you know, I am available. I show up across the community. We have about 17 neighborhood association meetings a month, and I try to attend all of them. There's times I miss one because there's a lot of meetings and sometimes there's conflicts. But I know myself, I want to hear from the people. I ran for mayor. I have the privilege of serving as mayor because I want a better Beaumont. It's that simple. And I believe we've been making real strides. I think people can see that, and I just invite people to reach out if they have any questions, but I would sure appreciate their vote.
All right, Mayor Roy West, the runoff election is June 7th, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
12 News, your election headquarters, sponsored by Nature's Federal Credit Union.